From 1641 to 1853, the Tokugawa shogunate enforced a policy called Kaikin. This policy prohibited foreign contact with most outside countries. On July 8, 1853, U.S. Navy ships entered Edo Bay. Commodore Matthew Perry requested Japan to open her ports to Western trade. Their arrival marked the reopening of the country after more than 200 years of self-imposed isolation.
The Meiji Restoration was a chain of events that restored imperial rule to Japan. The emperor promulgated the Charter Oath. It outlined the course of action to be followed during Emperor Meiji's reign. On November 29, 1890, the Meiji Constitution came into effect. The supreme governing body consisted of an upper house and a lower house for deliberation. The Wall Street crash of 1929 destroyed Japan's economy. The Imperial Japanese Army and politicians related to large corporations set out to free Japan from the economic slump through aggression. They favored the German strategy and hoped to invade other nations. They believed that opening new markets in Asia would bring Japan's economy out of recession.
The people of Japan believed that I was a living god. They believed that I was a direct descendant of the sun goddess. In reality, I had very little power. I tried to encourage cooperation with the United Kingdom and the United States. However, not many government officials backed my idea. I reluctantly supported the invasion of Manchuria. On September 19, 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria. The League of Nations ordered Japan to remove her troops. However, Japan refused.
It is a matter of common knowledge that Japan's policy is fundamentally inspired by a genuine desire to guarantee peace in the Far East and to contribute to the maintenance of peace throughout the world. Japan, however, finds it impossible to accept the report adopted by the Assembly.
Japan left the League of Nations. The Sino-Japanese War had begun. Here are a few laws created by the Japanese government during this time. The Nationalist Mobilization Act prepared Japan's economy for the war. The state had power to control labor unions. The prices of goods were placed under the authority of policymakers. Mass media was nationalized. The government had an unlimited budget to support the war efforts. The government created regulatory laws to deal with the food shortage. They also placed a limit on the use of natural gas. Men with long hair were told to get crew cuts. The general public was to refrain from wearing Western-style clothing. Magazines were published to ensure that the general public correctly understood the actions taken by the government. The Kempeitai was the secret police. It was similar to the SS in Nazi Germany. The civilian counterpart to the Kempeitai was the Tokko, short for the Tokubetsu Koto Keisatsu. The thought police was established to control political groups considered to be a threat to the general public.
In the beginning of 1941, Japan hoped to invade Southeast Asia. However, Japan needed to buy time to do so. The solution was to bomb Pearl Harbor to destroy the U.S. Pacific Fleet.
At 7:55 a.m. on December 7, 1941, the first two waves of Japanese aircraft began their deadly attack.
On December 8, 1941, the United States declared war on the Empire of Japan. On December 11, 1941, Adolf Hitler declared war on the United States. The Pacific War had begun.
War impacted every aspect of life. I was forced to work in a factory to support the war effort. I was also responsible for the housework. I had to endure several air raids. It was awfully painful to watch my city burn down to the ground. The nationwide food shortage wore everyone out, but it was considered dishonorable to complain. If I did speak out, My ration stamps would be confiscated.
On July 26, 1945, Harry S. Truman, Winston Churchill, and Chiang Kai-shek issued the Potsdam Declaration. The document outlined the terms of surrender for Japan. The ultimatum stated that if Japan did not surrender, she would face prompt and utter destruction.
On August 6, 1945, at 8:15 a.m., Enola Gay flew over Hiroshima. Harry S. Truman chose to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima because he wanted to measure the effect of the nuclear weapon by destroying a city that had been untouched by the war.
3 days later, they prepared to drop a second bomb on Kokura. However, Kokura was covered by a cloud of smoke from a firebombing of a nearby city earlier that day. The American bomber had to resort to bombing Nagasaki. The Americans single-handedly defeated Japan. However, many Japanese military leaders did not want to surrender. They feared that their national identity would collapse. Now, Truman refused to guarantee the emperor's safety, and this was the sticking point for the Japanese.
On August 15th, Emperor Hirohito gave a pre-recorded radio address to the empire. He announced the surrender of the Emperor of Japan to the Allies. Several military officers refused to accept defeat. They tried to steal the recording that Emperor Hirohito had made. On September 2nd, the surrender ceremony took place on the United States Navy battleship USS Missouri. The Pacific War had ended.